I want to welcome to the desk News Corp columnist Louise Roberts and late debate host Caleb Bond. Thanks for joining us, guys. I want to talk first about airline tickets. You know, what prices have been so high, they're finally starting to come down. Most everybody's in favour of cheap flights, but apparently not Greenpeace, Louise.
No, absolutely not. If you look on the Greenpeace website, I mean, flying is akin to clubbing baby seals almost. And they're sort of suggesting that it's, fuelled by rich people swanning around the globe, when in fact it's ordinary Australians who are saving up for these very expensive flights, I might add. And also the statistics saying that it's 30% cheaper, or 30 times cheaper than going on a train. No, that's absolute rubbish. My son's in Europe at the moment. He's U-railing around Europe, and I can tell you it is not cheap compared to that. So, for the ordinary Australian, those figures don't pass the
They are
test.
such killjoys, and there's always hypocrisy, Caleb, because so many of the climate activists get around in private jets.
Of course, when they go to Davos, they don't take any commercial airlines, do they? But it's gone so far now that you've got countries like France where they have actually banned any short-haul flights that you can take on a train in 2.5 hours or less. Like, the rubber is seriously hitting the road in terms of this stuff being enforced. And there are places in Europe where they have these €10 or £10 flights, particularly with airlines like Ryanair, the owner of which constantly talks about the fact that they're the cheapest airline in the world, and he doesn't particularly care, and he'd rather remove all the toilets so he could put more seats on the planes. But if people are willing to pay for it, that's their business, isn't it? Absolutely.
I flew Ryanair once.
I will say that the owner of Ryanair is a great supporter of jumps racing, so I do like him for that.
Well, speaking of cheap flights, we read today, Louise, that Harry and Meghan apparently asked to get hold of Air Force One to get back for the Queen's funeral.
I'm not surprised.
Any of these news stories correct, or do people just make them up?
I don't know, but it's a fantastic story, though. So, I mean, the background to this, of course, is I think 1 or 2 days before the Queen's funeral, there was a reception at Buckingham Palace. The Bidens were there, and, of course, Hasmeg were spectacularly disinvited from this. Obviously, they were slightly miffed/puzzled by this, but still needed that access to the Bidens and tried to hitchhike a lift back to Washington, which is about an 8-hour flight, I think, from London. Yeah. And clearly, Joe and Mrs. Biden did not want their ears sheared off about the latest project.
I reckon
trapped in a plane.
I reckon they'd ask. I've never been on Air Force One. I've flown around on the Secretary of State's smaller aircraft with Condi Rice. That was nice. Air Force One would be a kind of nice way to travel, I reckon.
I would have thought so. I mean, I've tried to hitchhike a ride before, but never on Air Force One, and certainly not for an 8-hour trip. But you see, this is the thing. The entitlement of these two, they want all the perks of being working royals without being working royals. And one of the funniest elements of this story is apparently that Meghan, in particular, has been trying to ingratiate herself with power makers in the United States, and she wants to get close to the Bidens, but every time she tries to make the effort, they're like, nah, not really interested. No, who are you?
What's the point of getting close to Joe Biden? He wouldn't remember you the next day. Maybe she should get close to Hunter Biden. He'd party.
And also
supply with some drugs, I'm sure.
Oh dear. And also Jill's very savvy. She wants to keep him with the Cambridges. So she's like, no, you're not coming on my plane.
Jill's running the show, you reckon?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Now, I'm going to show you what I showed everybody else at the top of the program. And this is, so we'll watch out here for a woman who's now been dubbed in Germany, apparently, the brutal blonde, and the way she deals with these climate protesters. She's just fantastic. She doesn't muck around, right?
I wouldn't be calling her the brutal blonde. I'm calling her the beautiful blonde. And darling, if I get your phone number, I'll give you a call. I'm available. I mean, seriously, she has got to be one of the most fantastic women I've ever seen in my life.
The barnstorming, ballsy, beautiful blonde. I think we've got another clip of her doing this, going for the hair, using the hair as a handle. And everybody can get back to work. Make that woman chancellor.
Absolutely. She's doing what everyone else is thinking. Get off the road. We've got lives to get on with.
But here's the question. If you or I were to do that to some protesters on the Sydney Harbour Bridge tomorrow, would we end up
We'd be
facing
in
police
cuffs.
charges.
We'd be in cuffs, probably, yes.
Yeah,
I tell you what, I know one other woman I think who would do something like that, and that's my co-host on the Late Debate, Liz Storer. I can see her with her passion doing that.
she wouldn't mess around with pulling by the hair. She would scalp you.